Dear listeners, in the last few episodes, we relived the beautiful memories of how Sai Ashraya's journey of love and selfless service began with the first Seva project of Breakfast Seva. We then relived the priceless memories of how Sai Ashraya first got the opportunity to take holistic and loving Medicare to the doorsteps of people. And we then relived the impactful story of Sai Ashraya Adarsh Gram. In today's episode, we will relive the memories from yet another golden Seva opportunity that came our way, and that is the 24/7 food Seva. It was on one of those evenings when our volunteers were in this particular area interacting and counseling some people. And as we were doing that, one elderly man came to us, introduced himself and said, "I hear that you're doing a lot of good work, serving a lot of people. There is this particular area in Bangalore that I know of where people are in dire straits. Neither are they eating properly and nor is their health taken good care of. I would just request you to go and take a look." The way this person put it to us, there were tears in his eyes and it was just straight from his heart. And that prompted us to go the very next day and do a survey. The following day, when our volunteers were about to reach this particular area for the survey, the first sight that they saw shocked them. Two men were standing on the main road fighting over a plate of food and were literally hitting each other. And in the process, the food dropped, and when we thought that things are going to escalate further, what we saw shocked us again. Both these men hugged each other and started crying. We got down from the car, rushed to them and said, "Sir, don't worry, we'll immediately get you some food." Then he just pushed us away and he said, "Sir, we don't want any food. Why don't you just come with us and see how many of us are living in this particular area and are struggling to eat properly because we don't have work to do, our health is gone for a toss and we don't know what to do, sir. We're in dire straits." So saying so with tears in his eyes, our volunteers followed these two men into this particular area. After crossing many narrow streets and a long walk, we reached this place. We could see many elders sitting there and they looked sick. They were just sitting outside their homes on the footpath. We saw a mother going and buying loose provisions to cook for the next meal. And that is when a young boy turned our lives around. He brought an inflection point to Sai Ashraya. We went to this young boy who was sitting under a tree. He looked terribly sick. He was coughing. We went and put our hands around him and asked him, "Anna, what happened to you?" Then he said, "Sir, I have TB and I have not eaten for the last 1.5 days. My treatment hasn't been regular. I'm terribly hungry. But nange nadiyakku aagta illa Anna. Means I'm not even able to get up and walk. Usiradake kashta aagta ide." He said, "I'm not even able to breathe properly." And when we asked him as to who is taking care of him, he said, "Sir, nobody is there to look after me. This whole area is ridden with hunger and illness. Sir, why don't you do something for us? You say that you're from an NGO. Why don't you come out and actually do something for this whole area? And that would make me very happy." When we looked at this youngster say this, it brought tears to our eyes. While he was so sick, all that he spoke about was the people who lived there. He never for once thought about himself. Following this impactful conversation, and after we spent some time reassuring this young brother of ours, we went ahead and met all the elders in the slum across different streets and then found out what was the actual need in that place. Their only requirements were food and healthcare. And we went back and we said, why can't we actually do something concrete for them? And that is when a few of our lady volunteers said, why don't we just rent a kitchen and cook food round the clock for these people? Undeterred by the limited resources in our hand, we went ahead and started looking for a small kitchen from where we could cook for all these people round the clock. And as we did this, a principal of the school, a school that he was personally running for children who can't hear and speak, he met us and he said, I have a kitchen in the school. We have about 80 students studying here. If you can feed them 3 times a day, I would also be open to you using this kitchen to serving all the people whom you want to serve. And without batting an eyelid, we accepted his gracious offer and went ahead and established our first ever kitchen. A small one though, but it was going to be very effective. And now, let us listen to how that happened. With the increasing number of volunteers, we split up into multiple groups. While one group went into these areas and started surveying, finding out how many people were there, how many elders, how many children, the other group spent time setting up the kitchen, inquiring about where to source the provisions from, where to source the vegetables from. And while all this was getting figured out, we also needed a vehicle to carry the food into these areas. And that was the first time that we rented a truck and made it a food truck. With our volunteers working round the clock, in a span of 10 days, we had all the logistics figured out. We identified a vendor for provisions, for fruits and vegetables, milk and curds, and most importantly, we could modify and set up the kitchen to our requirement. And as we did these things, our volunteers came up with ideas of locations and people who needed help. And during these discussions is when we said, if it has to be a round-the-clock thing, we would have to be serving breakfast, lunch and dinner. And that was the first thing. So people identified places for lunch and for dinner. And then our volunteers would go map each one of these places. And during this discussion, one of our volunteers said, hey, listen, what about the time between midnight and morning 6? There are still people awake and doing work, like people like truck drivers. What about them? And that is when, on further research, we found that there is actually a person who did a research and said that accidents related to truck drivers can be reduced by 70%. By 70%, dear listeners, with just 1 cup of tea. And with that, we had a venue set for lunch, dinner, and the midnight seva. And the breakfast seva was already on, so we had everything figured out. And in 15 days precisely, we had the first meal for 3,000 people being cooked. Dear listeners, here is a beautiful experience from the first day of the 24/7 food seva. It was the lunch session and there was a long line, and this old granny came forward and collected her food, and that day we had made a sweet also. She sat in a corner next to us and she started eating her food, and the moment she put that sweet into her mouth, she had tears in her eyes. She came walking to me, put her hands on my cheek and she said, Kanna, nei saapte ettana maasam aachu theriyuma? And then she said, Ningala romba naal vaalந்து ellarukku nalla seva pannanum. Meaning, do you know how long it has been since we have tasted ghee? All of you should live long and carry out seva like this. Dear listeners, it is that blessing that has kept us going all these 4 years. Here is another experience from the time that our volunteers were surveying a venue for the dinner seva. Our volunteers reached the slum in the night and they found these little boys with packets of pan in their hand, which is basically the equivalent of chewing tobacco. Promptly they pulled those packets out and asked those little boys, who gave this to you? To which those little boys replied that Anna gave it to us, meaning that big brother gave it to us. So we pulled that big brother and said, hey, why did you give them this? They're not supposed to be chewing this. And then that boy replied, see Anna, I have not had my lunch and I have not had my dinner either. And this is my situation on most days. And I end up chewing pan and going to sleep as it gives a minty feeling in my stomach. So as we were just shocked, this boy said, those little boys also have very little food to eat. And now they're even addicted to chewing pan. So much so that even if they have little food to eat, they end up chewing pan and going to sleep. We didn't know what to do, and we pulled these little boys, we went to their tents and we met their parents, and what they had to share shook us. The parents would leave for work at 6 in the morning and come back at 8 in the night. The story of these mothers especially is very moving. The mother leaves at 6 in the morning and works in 20 odd homes, getting to eat only one meal during the whole time. She has to clean and sweep and swap and make food, while herself having no food to eat, just the one meal. And having come back home at 8, she would have to go in search of firewood because they didn't have cooking gas there, and then make up some little food and serve her husband and her little children. And during this time, there is nobody looking after the kids, and hence they end up in bad company. This is when we requested these people, especially the mothers. We said, Amma, why don't you just give us this one opportunity? We will take care of the food part of it. All you have to do is come back and just be there with your children. Just guide them on the right path, and then everything will fall in place. When the mothers heard this, they said, just as we were wondering what to do with these kids, they have gotten into petty robbery, they have started chewing pan, and God knows what they'll get into in the future. That is when God sent all of you to us. And listening to this, dear listeners, we were moved to tears, and that is where we started serving dinner day after day, week after week. And the transformation that took place was amazing. Dear listeners, once again, Sai Ashraya's focus was on carrying out this seva in the most holistic way possible. When we carry out seva with all the love in our hearts, we realize that it's not just about giving food. Food then becomes an excuse to communicate to that person's heart. If we go empty-handed and offer our advice to the same people, it might be a tad bit difficult for them to understand. But the time that you get while you hold the person's hand and lovingly serve food, and when you go sit next to him when he eats, and when you talk to him, you end up talking to his heart. And that's where this beautiful transformation takes place. With that feeling in our hearts, our volunteers were split into two teams. While one team carried out the food serving, the other team spent all their time mapping each one of these places. And what did they do? They identified children who dropped out of schools and helped them get back to schooling so that they don't end up in bad company and joining child labor. So that was one aspect of it. The other aspect was finding people who did not have work to do, and with the growing number of volunteers and connections, we could network them. Matching their skill set, we would find work for them like masonry, carpentry, plumbing, electricals. We started networking the people who did not have work and identified places where they could go and do some regular work and stand up on their own feet. So like we said, dear listeners, the end objective was not just serving food, but the end objective was to bring the most meaningful transformation possible. As we rejoiced carrying on with this seva and saw this miraculous transformation take place in front of our eyes, we were blessed with a powerful inflection point that changed our lives. And this came from a youth representative who used to help us coordinate the seva in one of these localities. This youth representative brought a few elders with him and said, "Sir, we have a request to make. All of you come here and carry out seva with all your heart, and we feel that from now on, you need not come here and serve us. Thanks to all of you, we are on our own feet now. Our homes are happy, we are all happy. But we have identified people who are in such a terrible state, just like we were a year ago. And from our side, we want to take you to these places and help transform their lives too." When we heard this, we were moved to tears, and following their footsteps, we went to newer places and started serving more and more people, touching more lives each day. Dear listeners, one of the unique facets of the 24/7 food seva is the midnight seva that is carried out from 12 to 6 a.m. every day. Every night, Sai Ashraya's volunteers carry hot dinner, tea and snacks to serve about 300 truck drivers in this place called Atibele, located strategically near a toll gate and connecting to some of the main highways. This place sees some of the highest amount of truck movement. Sai Ashraya's volunteers set up a big table with an umbrella, food warmers, a big tea can, and snacks laid out. And you'll be surprised, this entire setup looks like a restaurant. Initially, this seva was met with a lot of curiosity. The truck drivers would come past the toll gate in ones and twos, and they would park near where we would stand with the banner behind us. They would come, they would have dinner, tea and snacks. And at the end of it, they'll pull out some cash and say, "Sir, how much?" Then we'll immediately fold our hands and tell them, "Sir, this is a seva, we don't charge anything." And whenever we've said this, many of them have been shocked, some of them have cried, hugged us. And long story short, as the word spread around, more and more truck drivers started assembling at one time. Initially, like we said, it used to be one or two people coming, and then slowly as times progressed, we would have 100, 150 people already waiting for us by the time we would get there. Once again, dear listeners, the emphasis is always on carrying out seva in the most holistic manner possible. The truck drivers, due to their extremely stressful nature of work, would often get into habits such as smoking, consuming alcohol. There wouldn't be harmony in their homes, and oftentimes we would find them very stressed out and frustrated. And it is during these times when we would serve them food that we would keep talking to them, explaining to them the ill effects of smoking, drinking alcohol, and how they should eat properly in time, drink lots of water, drive slowly and drive safe. And as we made this rapport with them, they began to listen to us. Dear listeners, here is an experience that illustrates the impact that this seva has created. One of the truck drivers who initially came to us during this seva was very shy. He wouldn't even open up to us. He would just have his dinner, tea and snacks. He would wish us and go away. But we noticed that he was extremely stressed out, and as he would have dinner, we would go sit with him, sit and talk to him, and slowly he opened up to us. He shared about how stressful his life had become, driving 16 hours a day, how he got into bad company, became a chain smoker, started consuming alcohol, and then at one point the tensions at home became so much that he pulled his child out of school because he didn't have money to pay the fees. We slowly started interacting with this truck driver and started telling him that, "Sir, if only you could save those little tidbits from not smoking and drinking, that you would have a good saving to actually put your child back in school." And this truck driver would only nod, and slowly and steadily we helped him groom well, become more confident. And at one point, we actually took the liberty to tell him, we said, "Sir, you know sir, it costs us only about 25 or 30 rupees to get you this plate of food. So imagine sir, if you don't smoke and drink, how many more such people you can serve yourself and how much of a saving you can generate." And then we threw a challenge in front of him. We said, "Sir, you take it as a challenge and every day do not smoke and don't drink and just get the cash that you save and show it to us." We don't know what came over him, and he took it literally. After a month, one day he comes clean shaven, all smiles, well dressed, and he was carrying a sweet box in his hand. When he came near to us, we asked him, "Sir, what happened? You're looking so bright and you're carrying a sweet box. What's the occasion?" Then he came forward and told that, "Sir, you know sir, I'm so happy today. This is the first time after my marriage that I'm taking sweets home to my wife. And sir, here it is." He gave us an envelope and it contained a lot of cash, and he said, "Sir, this is my saving just from not drinking, smoking and eating outside the last 1 month. And now I am confident that I can put my child back in school, and I'm so happy that my child won't end up being a cleaner in my truck." Dear listeners, doesn't this sum up the impact that this seva has created? It totally left us in tears. With that one transformation this one truck driver had, he brought about transformation in a whole lot of other truck drivers. And that is how from one person to one person to one person, this seva grew from strength to strength and created an amazing transformation. Dear listeners, another facet of the Midnight Seva is the amount of rescue operations that Sai Ashraya carries out. If you are wondering what they are, These are people who are stranded between the border of two states. There would be hit and run victims, there would be people who are just abandoned from their homes. They would land up and be sleeping near a weighbridge, near these toll gates. And what we would do is go serve them some food, help them groom, and in cases when they were sick, we would actually lift them, bring them home, find out where they belonged from, get them fully fit physically and mentally, and send them back to their hometowns. Because sustaining in Bangalore, dear listeners, is not that easy when you're stranded like that. Dear listeners, here is another powerful experience from this facet of Midnight Seva. This is the story of an old man named Kader Pasha. We found this Tata just behind where we were serving, and he had a tumor on his neck. He was completely disheveled, not well groomed. He was extremely stressed out. He would often be sitting and crying. We tried convincing him to come with us, get some treatment, but he would not listen. Eventually, we coaxed him and he came home. We reunited him back with his son. He went back. He got admitted in a hospital. His treatment started. And then God knows what happened. He ran away from the hospital, ran away from his home once again. This Tata, having run away from his home for a second time, landed up in the same place again, just behind where we were serving. And this time, when we found him, he was in a shocking state. He was lying on slush, and this time there were like 10,000 flesh-eating maggots eating him alive. We could barely see him. He was groaning in pain. He was shedding tears. We immediately called for help, but no ambulance came. And finally, with the help of a few truck drivers, we lifted this Tata, put him in our car, and rushed him to a hospital. We did not know what to do. It was in the wee hours of the night, but fortunately a doctor decided to treat him. They used turpentine oil, removed all the maggots, and meanwhile my father reached out to his son, and the son would have none of it. He said, "I am not coming back to my father again." He fought at home and ran away. When we heard this reply from the son, we requested him. We said, "Sir, just come and see your father at the hospital. You don't have to do anything else. Just come and see him. And even after that, if you don't want to take him back home, we will look after him." And the son came to the hospital, and when he saw his father in that state, tears rolled down his cheeks, and then we didn't have to say anything. We just arranged transportation, and the son took the father back home. Kader Pasha Tata was once again reunited with his family. For 3 months, we didn't hear back from the family, and then one day we received a message from the son, and he said, "Sir, last night my father peacefully passed away in his sleep." And then he writes, "Thanks to all of you, today I know what my father means to me." And apparently, the last few months, Tata had showered all his love upon his son and the entire family, and they had a wonderful time. And those were the memories that Tata left with his son. Dear listeners, this small experience, but a powerful experience, showcases the impact that Sayashreya Seva creates. Dear listeners, like we always say, all good work has difficulties. And last year when the pandemic struck, life was thrown out of gear for everyone. We were also at a state of not knowing what to do. The people from our lunch seva, dinner seva slums had left back to their hometowns because they didn't have any work to do, which was understandable. The breakfast seva schools were shut. We could not go for midnight seva, and the first 2 weeks of that lockdown was just the most miserable time for all of us in Sayashreya. But 2 weeks later, a golden opportunity came our way. We got to know that there is a huge slum less than 10 kilometers away from home where there are about 4,000 people living, and we got to know that they are in desperate need for food. Our volunteers immediately obtained permission for Sayashreya and traveled to this slum to do a quick survey and to start our work. When we first entered the slum, we realized that the need was huge. Some of the people there had not eaten for more than 2 days. Some of them were just living on biscuits and water. Sayashra's volunteers in a day's time went and met key people in that area and found out what the needs of the people were. And as we started planning all this is when we realized that sourcing provisions, vegetables and everything else was going to be really tough as the pandemic was at its height and transportation was also limited. The task was a Herculean one, but dear listeners, it all happened, and in a week's time, we had begun serving 4,000 people in this area. Every morning, we would take fresh hot milk to 500 children who lived in this slum, and then following that, at 12 in the noon, with all the COVID protocols in place, such as wearing masks, social distancing, and the special part here, all this was not done by us. The people carried all this out themselves. The people of the slums drew circles, huge ones, and 1,200 people would wait in separate counters, about 4 or 5 of them each day, and they would collect food for rest of their families. There was most minimal waste generation. This slum, dear listeners, goes through the unfortunate plight where the entire garbage of the city lands up in this slum, and many of the people in this slum work in segregating this garbage and making some money at least out of the plastic that they collect. And the worst part here, dear listeners, is that children also were getting involved in it. So yet again, in a holistic manner, we went ahead, met the parents of these children, reassured them and told them that we were all there for them and we would make something happen, and their children need not go and pick garbage to get some food on the plate for the family. Dear listeners, these children are so brilliant, so inquisitive, pure gems, and most importantly, they are so mature at a very young age because of the harsh circumstances that they live in. All that they need is one little push, and then they will soar high forever. Our volunteers spent more and more time during the pandemic with these children and ensured that all of them were reading something, writing something, and that they did not drop out of school. As Sayashra's volunteers worked relentlessly round the clock with these little children, their parents, and all the people of this slum, we could see remarkable improvement. And then came an eye-opener. A mother who was carrying and who was full-term pregnant delivered her child in one of the shanties in that slum. The mother was in a terribly weak condition, and the child too had not been vaccinated. The first dose of vaccine that a baby should receive after birth were not yet administered, and we were worried. We immediately approached the local health authority and tied up with the local PHC to get the child vaccinated. But what took place was an amazing event. The local PHC got a whole lot of vaccines and vaccinated not just this infant, but a lot of other infants too who were not vaccinated. Dear listeners, this is yet another experience that illustrates that if we take the first step, what wonderful things happen. This whole experience left us in a lot of pain. The birth of that baby was still fresh in our minds, and that's when we heard of many more such experiences of people where they could not go to a hospital for various reasons. Either the test was not available, or the hospital said that they were dealing with COVID patients, so it would be difficult for them to do the tests, which was understandable. And that is when the idea of constructing a state-of-the-art mobile medical unit came about. With the persistent efforts of all of Sayashra's volunteers, a state-of-the-art mobile medical unit was constructed and commissioned in quick time during the pandemic to take loving and holistic Medicare to the doorsteps of people so they don't have to go in search of a hospital to get some basic tests done. Dear listeners, in the last 4 years, Sayashra, through the 24/7 Food Seva project, has been able to serve 30 lakh meals, which is 3 million meals. And more than the numbers, what matters is the amazing transformation that has taken place through this Seva. Dear listeners, as we come to the conclusion of this episode about the 24/7 Food Seva, we would like to highlight the transformation that has taken place within us because of meeting all these people every day. Today we realize what is the value of one plate of food, what is the value of one cup of tea. Priceless, dear listeners, priceless. That is the value. Dear listeners, what keeps Sai Ashraya's volunteers on the ground even during the second wave of the pandemic? The pandemic doesn't spare anybody, not even our volunteers. Even though some of our volunteers were down with COVID, the other volunteers stood up, took precautions, took their vaccines and stepped out of their homes, put their lives on the line to go and serve people. Why? Because we learned these precious life lessons from these people. Throughout their life, unlike us who feel that this is a challenging time, their whole life has been a challenge. And listening to their stories day in and day out transforms us. And then we ask ourselves this question: if not we, then who? If not here, then where? And most importantly, if not now, then when? So dear listeners, lots of gratitude from all of us to those people who have helped us turn our lives around. Thank you so much for tuning in. Namaskar. Jai Hind.